In this video, I'm going to be giving you my review of the Volkl Vostra V8 300 gram tennis racket. Now, the thing about Volkl is that they're not really as well known as some of the other manufacturing brands like Wilson, Head, Babolat, Yonex, and that's because they're pretty niched. And I'll get to that when I cover one of the specs, but I really don't think that people should overlook Volkl as much because they do offer some pretty similar rackets that are even going to be a little bit different to help you a little bit more. So, the first thing to know about this Volkl racket in particular is that this is a 100 square inch racket. So that's pretty standard. You do have the 100 square inch head size, which is going to help give you just a little bit more help with power, a little bit more help with spin, and it's going to be a little bit more forgiving, especially if you're either starting out in the tennis or you just want your racket to give you a little bit more help. This racket is going to do that, and one other way it's doing it besides the 100 square inch head size is going to be the 16 by 18 string pattern. Now, the 16 by 18 string pattern, that is something that you really don't see much anymore. Typically, you're usually only seeing a 16 by 19 string pattern, which has kind of become the standard for most rackets, or an 18 by 20. So the thing about the 16 by 18 string pattern is that this is helping to give you even more spin because there's more room for the strings to move around inside the racket so that they can snap back and help generate more spin onto the ball with almost whatever string you are going to use. Some strings are better for spin, some aren't, but that's not this video. We're talking about the Volkl racket. And then next up, we have the unstrung weight. So this racket, besides the 16 by 18 string pattern, which is one of the most noticeable things about it in terms of just actual physical racket, is that this is about 10.6 ounces unstrung, or about 300 grams. Like I said, the Volkl Vostra 8 300 gram racket. And so once you actually add the string in, you're at about 11.2 ounces to around 315 to about 318 grams strung, give or take between there, depending on what string you're using or just in general. So the weight of this racket is pretty similar to most others. It's pretty common, pretty standard. Now, it is going to be the standard weight for a fully grown male adult player. So I believe this racket does also come in a 285 gram version, which is going to be a little bit lighter. I think it's about 10.1 ounces unstrung, so about 10.7 strung, or around the 300 to 303 gram strung mark. Now, don't quote me on that, but I believe it does come in that. I know it comes in a heavier version, but we're not talking about that one. So this racket does come in a few different weight variations for you to be able to try it out, especially if you are liking a lighter weight racket, this one being the standard weight racket, or something just a little bit heavier that is going to be a little bit more helpful while still keeping the 100 head size and that cool and interesting little 16 by 18 string pattern. And then down here, here's where something starts to get even more interesting than the string pattern. You have a 67 stiffness rating. Typically, with tennis rackets, stiffness ratings, the higher and higher you get to 70, the harder and harder the racket is on your arm. So you're probably like, why in the world would someone want a racket that is at a 67 on the stiffness rating scale? And the thing about this is that Volkl has kind of been a little bit unknown, and this is where I mentioned that they get a little bit more niched. Volkl's niche, I know I said it differently, but just go with it. Volkl's niche is that they are one of the most arm-friendly racket brands ever. Now, seeing the 67 spec, you wouldn't think that. However, Volkl, what they do, and this is just the easier example to show you, is that here in the bottom of the butt cap, this right here, this red, this is all rubber. And then that rubber, you can essentially think of it as throughout the entire handle as well to help decrease the vibration and the shock before it gets back into your arm or your wrist to cause you tennis elbow. You can also have a lot more dampening technology, which Volkl does, throughout the rest of the frame as well in order to help reduce that shock and vibration even more. So you get a racket that, even though it's still stiff, and this is helping to gain a lot of power, but usually in other rackets is very harmful to your arm, this racket, you really don't feel it. It's going to be easier on your arm probably than others in this stiffness category. And you can even get a little bit extra power from it because of how stiff the racket is. Now, if you are playing with a polyester string, I will always say be careful because polyesters are usually very hard on the arm just in general. So even if you do put it in a Volkl racket that is designed to be a little bit easier on you, it may still have the potential to cause tennis elbow. However, you have a much less chance to get that by using a Volkl racket. So that's where I think Volkl really shouldn't be overlooked when people are either getting into the sport or they've been playing for a while. I actually know someone that when they were actually getting back into tennis, because they hadn't played tennis since they were in high school, they started getting back into it. But the thing was, their old racket was causing them was causing them tennis elbow. It's because the racket just wasn't right for them anymore. I believe the weight was just a little bit too heavy for them. So what they did when they came into the store to actually get better, and what the person who taught me about rackets was helping her with, is that they gave her a Volkl racket in order to start rehabbing her tennis elbow. This kept her on the court. This allowed her to play just a little bit longer than traditionally. And now she can play whenever she wants, however she wants, with whatever racket she wants. So that's where Volkl's power comes in to help get you back onto the court, or it's to help keep you on the court if you are struggling with tennis elbow. And this racket right here, the Vostra V8 300 gram, is a great all-around balance for you to actually go out and do that. And besides that, it is still competitively priced against the other rackets like this in other brands. So you are looking at about $249 and I believe 99 cents. So round that up by a penny, you get about $250. But I think it would be in your interest to at least try it to see what you think and see how it's going to play. I personally very much like the Vostra V8. I didn't think I would. Now, granted, I even had someone else that I was working with in the tennis shop that I work at. I was like, hey, grab me a tennis racket, just a Volkl one, see what you think. And then he grabbed this one for me. I was like, okay, cool. And then I started hitting with it. I started playing with it. It played a lot better than I thought I did. I know I don't have any footage of it. I'm sorry. I'm working on getting that for reviews coming soon. And the thing is, with it, I was very surprised at how well it played. And I definitely think you should demo it. So, with that being said, that's all I got for the Volkl Vostra V8 300 gram. If you like the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below any questions that you do have about Volkl rackets or just the Volkl line in general. The brand's been around for a long time, but not as many people know about it. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. With that being said, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video and share it with a friend so that way we can grow the channel and get the information out there from the people that have it to the people that need it. There's a lot of misinformation in the tennis community. So I took it upon myself to make this channel so we can get rid of that and just enjoy the game of tennis that we love so much more without having to worry about getting injured from our gear. So with that being said, as always, take care.